Hello everyone, thank you for joining Highfield's Remote Invigilation for Functional Skills webinar. I'm Bethan, a Corporate Customer Service Manager at Highfield, and joining me today we've got Andy, one of our Business Development Managers. My colleagues Laura and Amy will be monitoring your questions and providing technical support throughout. So before we start, I'd just like to draw your attention to the top right-hand side of your screen, where you'll be able to see a small control panel. So from here, you'll be able to access audio options and type in your questions as the webinar progresses. We'll aim to answer all questions at the end of the webinar or at various points throughout the session. You'll also see the facility to raise your hand. Please use this if you experience any technical issues during the webinar, such as if you're unable to hear us or see the presentation slides. So after we finish today, I'll close the webinar, and once this is done, you'll be presented with a short survey. You'll just need to wait a few seconds before the survey pops up. However, please do take the time to complete this, because the feedback's really important in tool for us to make sure that we can meet your needs and expectations. So I'll hand over to Andy to get started.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Right, so today we're going to cover a number of different aspects. I'm just going to do a quick introduction to Highfield for you, and then I'm going to be passing back over to Bethan. So just going to start off with this introduction, and then over to Bethan for looking at the benefits of working with Highfield, restricted access to learners requiring functional skills in this strange period that we find ourselves in at the moment. And then we'll be looking at what Highfield can do to support you by both remote delivery and remote assessment. And the whole package of this, we call it Qualify from Home. So at the end of the day, we're just going to have a quick look at Qualify at Home, how that looks, and the prices that come around that. So first of all, I just want to start off with a brief introduction to Highfield. So next slide, please, Bethany. So we've introduced a number of methods of helping you throughout this period. One of the things that we found has been very, very useful is free e-certification. So all our customers now have free e-certification. So with this, you can deliver training remotely, you can do assessment remotely, and you can also remotely issue the certificates. The certificates look the same as a hard copy. They can be joint branded, and they are accepted and approved through Ofqual. The support resources that we offer, I'm sure you've all used them, are using them at the moment, but they're very, very engaging, very interactive, and in some cases award-winning as well. Bethan mentioned at the beginning there about the feedback. We find that feedback from our customers very, very useful. It allows us to alter what we're doing. A lot of the changes that we've made through the various lockdowns that we've lived through for the last 12 months, it's been shaped by you. So your feedback at the end of this session is very, very useful, and it's not a wasted exercise. We do listen and we do make changes accordingly. What we try and offer is good value for money. We don't always say we're the cheapest. We try to be the best value for money though. So we offer you quality, we offer you a full package that suits your needs, and we think that that's really good value in what we do offer you. And we're also a one-stop shop. So we do offer the training materials, we offer online training, we offer the qualifications, and also around apprenticeships, endpoint assessments, etc. So for whatever you're delivering, we will usually have some kind of solution and some kind of package that we can put together to help with that. And again, from your feedback, if there's anything that we're not currently offering, we can work with you to develop something new. And then finally, which we're going to cover later on, the Qualify at Home package, which we've put together. So Qualify at Home, it includes online training, it includes video delivery of training, it includes remote assessment and remote invigilation. So basically, we called it Qualify at Home because that's what you can do. Your learners, without leaving their home, without needing to come into contact, can go through that whole process and get a qualification. Okay, so you've not come to hear me talking about Highfield, you've come to hear Bethan talking about functional skills. So I'm going to pass you over to you, Bethan.
Thank you. Okay, so our functional skills offer includes initial assessment, diagnostics, online resources, and e-assessment with remote invigilation. So we'll start with Skills Forward. So Skills Forward provides you and your learners with a flexible approach to learning. The platform is web-based and it is available to access 24/7 to work around your learners' needs. It's a comprehensive e-learning solution for functional skills, and it incorporates Ofsted and ESFA compliant assessments, detailed skills diagnostics, video tutorials, progression tracking, and innovative resources to aid skills development. When your account's created, you'll be able to be sent an admin guide which shows you how to add learners, allocate courses, and track their progress throughout. And we've always got Skills Forward on hand to support with any queries that you may have with them. So before we move on to the assessment element, the exam element, so to speak, we'll start with the speaking, listening and communication. The speaking, listening and communication element can be assessed remotely for both legacy and reformed qualifications, and you can do it in two ways. So you can either have the learners and the other members of the group taking part in the assessment in the same room and the assessor can dial in, or all participants taking part and the assessor can all dial into a video feed from various locations. So it just depends on how you're working in the current climate. In either case, the assessor must be able to identify the learner and be able to both see and hear the learner clearly, and you should store the video recordings. Moving on to the exam equipment, or the examination side of it, there are two pieces of important equipment that the learner must have in order to be able to complete the exam by remote invigilation. So these being a laptop or PC with a front-facing camera, and that needs to be on Windows 7 or higher, or if they've got a Mac, it needs to be on Mac OS X or higher, and a smartphone on either Android 4.1 or higher, or an iPhone on iOS 8 or higher. So it's important to ensure that the PC has got Google Chrome set as the default browser, and that they've got permission to download apps onto the smartphone they're using. So if they're not using a personal device, they may need to speak to IT departments just to make sure that there's no firewalls on there blocking the access. And currently, with the functional skills assessment platform Surpass Viewer, which we'll cover in a little bit more detail further on, it's not compatible with Chromebooks or if devices are using Windows 10 in S mode. So moving on to the personal skills. So for a learner to be able to use this method to take their exam, they must have a sufficient level of IT knowledge to be able to download an app, use a webcam, follow email links and on-screen instructions. So once you're satisfied that the learner's got the IT skills necessary, you'll need to make sure that they've got the relevant equipment that we've just discussed on the previous slide. So you'll need to think about the learners that you're engaging with. This method might not be suitable for everyone, or you might just need to spend a little bit of time with them on the basic IT skills to make sure that that's not going to cause them any problems on the day of their exam. So moving on to how you would book exams. So as part of our service to you, we will do all of the admin. So we do ask that you give us 10 days notice where possible. However, we can be flexible if needed. All we need is for you to tell us which qualification and exam the learner will be taking, the date and time of the exam, and the learner's details. We'll need their name, date of birth, and an email address to use with the proctor exam system. This must be a named email address that the learner can access from where they will be to complete the exam. So for example, if they're using a work email address but doing the exam at home, they need to be able to make sure that they can access that email. So we'll then book the exams on both of the systems for you and send the learner a confirmation email copying the centre in, and then the learner will also receive an email from proctor, which we can discuss further on the next slide. So confirmation emails. So as I just said, we'll send an email to the learner confirming everything they need to know about the exam. We'll also include a copy of the invigilation procedures and a user guide for proctor exam, so they know what to expect from the whole process. And it will also have contact details for Highfield, so we can answer any questions that they might have prior to the exam. They will also receive an email from Proctor Exam with 2 steps that must be completed. So that email is showing on your screen at the moment. So it's very important that the learner completes these steps on the device that they will be completing the exam on, as it is a system check. So the first step for them is to download the Chrome plugin, and that is to allow them to be able to share their screen with the Invigilator. And at this point, it is essential that they've got Google Chrome set as their default browser. The learner will also be provided with a link to download the Surpass viewer that I'll talk about on the next slide. So downloading the Surpass viewer, just a little bit of background on this for some of you who might have known. The Surpass system for web Surpass exams before used to run on Flash, but that has now been discontinued. So Surpass viewer is the new system that BTL have brought into place to replace that. So to install Surpass viewer, the learner will need to go to viewer.surpass.com. The link will be provided in the email for learners. And from that page, they would just need to select the button which to download the version that they need. So that will depend on what device they have. So if they've got an Apple device, they'll need to download the Mac version. And if not, they need to download the Windows version. Again, if it is a company device, they may need to speak to their IT team for authorization. So it's important that they do this as early as they can. Okay. So once they have installed the viewer, they'll be taken to they'll have it on their computer, sorry, so it will open up a web browser. There are some terms and conditions that they will need to agree to. Once it's opened up the web browser, they can close it down and then they won't need it until the day of the exam. And they will be provided with further instructions on what they'll need to do. But when they're on their exam, once they've logged into Proctor on the day of their exam, they'll have a link that they'll need to copy and paste into the Surpass viewer, so they'll be told exactly what they need to do, and it will obviously guide them through starting their assessment. So the Proctor exam system check, the learner should go to the email from Proctor Exam with the steps outlined, and then they need to click the link in step 2, and this will take them to the Proctor Exam site to complete some system checks. This is how the system ensures that that learner's device is capable of hosting the exam. So this includes checking their webcam, speakers, microphone, and their internet connection. So the system checks can be done at any point prior to the exam, but it is important that they do them on the device that they'll be doing their exam on, and as early as they possibly can, just so if they do come across any issues, they've got time to resolve it. So learners will also need to have their mobile phone with them, and they'll need to download the Proctor Exam app on their phone to link it to the PC by scanning a QR code. This will appear on the screen as part of the system check. And once the device checks are complete, the learner will close the page and then receive a 3rd email with an invitation to the exam. So for the exam pre-check, so on the day of the exam, at the time confirmed in the final email, the learner should click on the link in their confirmation email, which will take them to the Proctor Exam system. If they log in too early, they will see a message that tells them they're too early, and it will give them the time that they can return. If they log in too late, they'll see a message that tells them they're too late, and in this instance, the learner would need to contact Highfield customer service and we can support. They will now need to follow the on-screen instructions to complete the setup of the exam. So this includes setting up the screen share, confirming their ID, and linking the phone camera to the system. The learner will then be asked to use their mobile phone camera to show their workspace, both in front and behind, as well as the ceiling and under the desk, and demonstrate that they've not got any earphones in. They will then need to prop up their phone so it can record them completing the exam, and they'll need to be able to plug in their phone to a power socket for the duration of the exam and put their phone into airplane mode with Wi-Fi enabled. Again, all of this will be provided to the learner in clear on-screen instructions. There are some demonstrational videos along the way as well to show exactly what they need to do. So when the learners plan their daily schedule, they should allow an additional 30 minutes or so for the setup, just so they don't need to get worked up going through that. So starting their exam. So as I mentioned earlier, they do get through to a page that will give them instructions on what they need to do on the proctor exam system. So once the checks and the setup are complete, the learner is prompted to open Surpass Viewer, which they'd previously downloaded, which will look like this on the left. And then they'll need to enter a web address to launch the test, and they do that into the viewer, and which is on your right on the screen. So they would just need to enter English UK into the green box under live test. And again, that's all included in the learner instructions. So to start their exam, the learner will be provided with a key code. So they just pop that into the Surpass Viewer system, confirm their details are correct, and then enter a PIN that is also provided in their instructions. They will then be given some information on how the system works, a tutorial, and when they're ready, they can click to start the exam and then answer the exam questions. So the results, so once the learner is satisfied they've answered all of the questions, they can click to finish their exam. They must then open the proctor exam window and click on End Exam on that system as well. And then Highfield will process and release the results according to our usual turnaround times. So you'll receive a results email, and at which point Highfield qualification customers can then generate the e-certificate from Highfield Central to send to the learner or contact the learner to arrange a resit if needed. So if a learner does need to resit their exam, then you'll need to email the RI bookings team, so the remote invigilation bookings team, on the email address ribookings@highfield.co.uk. So that is the same email address that you would use to book a normal exam, and we will book the exam on the system in the same way as the original exam. So you'll need to include the learner name, date of birth, email address, exam title, and the date and time of the exam. The learner will receive confirmation as before and will need to follow the same process for their exam. So in terms of support, we are here to support you and the learner wherever needed. So the learner will receive clear instructions in their emails, a user guide, and there's also a YouTube link which can provide them with an overview of the process. We have a team of invigilators who are on hand to answer any queries and make the process as seamless as possible for you and the learners. So we've also got a standard and customizable flyers which you can send out to your clients. So I will hand back over to Andy, who can take you through the pricing and will tell you a little bit more about how we can support with your compliance delivery.
Thanks a lot, Bethan. Right, just to reiterate then what I mentioned earlier. So the Qualify at Home package, you can choose which elements of this you include. So we do offer e-learning on many of our compliance ones, so things like health and safety, food safety, personal license. So we do have e-learning that covers the whole of the syllabus, so it can then be followed by an exam. We also offer e-kits, and the e-kits can be used for work-based learning or in conjunction with apprenticeships as well. So with the training elements, we can offer the help, or you can deliver it yourself through Teams, Zoom, whichever video platform you're using. Once you've completed the learning, either through the e-learning or through video delivery, then you can also then do the exam online. So our e-assessment platform, Highfield Works, you've just seen some little screenshots there of how that looks. Highfield Works will take you through the package, through the exam, and the exams that are available on Highfield Works are exactly the same as the multiple choice ones that we offer as hard copy. So for anyone who's been delivering through classrooms, it's the same question bank, it's the same kind of questions. So there's no difference except the fact that they're doing it on screen as opposed to on paper. So these regulated exams, they can be taken at home. It is allowing people to be able to get these qualifications, in particular with the compliance ones. In many cases, they're needing the qualification to be able to take on a new job role, and it is allowing them to actually move forward by doing that. Next one, please. Thanks, Bethan. So the pricing then for the different kinds of packages. So we try to keep it as simple as possible with these, and the prices that we're showing on screen at the moment are the whole package. So with these in level 2 compliance, and it's level 1 compliance at the same price bracket as well. So that would include the learning, it would include the assessment and the remote invigilation. The price starts at £50 per learner. However, if you buy 50 or above of these packages, that price comes down by £10 per learner, so it's £40. With the work-based learning, where you buy an e-kit, e-assessment and remote invigilation as a whole package, that would come in at £80 per learner. And with the level 3, we offer level 3 food safety and health and safety. And again, this can be completed using e-learning, e-assessment, remote invigilation. And again, we have a price break on that. So should you wish to purchase 50 or above, it goes down from £100 per learner to £90 per learner. Functional skills, we do have a set price on this because of the additional elements around functional skills. There are no price breaks on this. So with this, we offer the online resources, the initial assessment, diagnostic assessment, then the e-assessment and remote invigilation. That whole package is £50 per learner. Now, should you wish to take any resits, we have a fixed fee for the remote invigilation. So we'll do free resits. But because of the various elements required for the remote invigilation, there is a £30 charge for the invigilation. So that's on resits, that's across the board. So across the board, the resit exam is free, but the remote invigilation for that exam is £30. If there are any additional questions around the pricing, etc., please contact us after that, or put additional questions into the question box. Okay. So there were some questions that came in while we've been doing the webinar, and I'm just going to have a look at some of those and try and answer them as we go through. So the individuals who've asked the questions have had some come back to them, and I'll just try and pick out some that seem relevant and seem to be recurring. So one of the questions that has come in a few times is, will this be recorded and shared with everyone following on from the webinar? The answer to that is yes. So everyone will receive a copy of this, and it will also be going onto our YouTube pages as well. One question that got asked was regarding ITC. At the moment, it's English and Maths are the only two that we're offering. So if you're needing anything over and above English and Maths, then unfortunately we won't be able to support that at this point anyway. Just looking through the other questions to see whether there's any others that we can share. So someone's asked, this is Gina. You mentioned that instructions will be provided to learners. Will there be a person to talk them through on exam day? So during the exam, the invigilator will be able to make contact with the learner. So if the learner is having any difficulties, there is a chat function within the invigilation system, so we can offer advice. And also, one of the pieces of information that we ask for when you're booking a learner on is their mobile number. So if someone has any serious issues, we do have a support team, and the support team can call them, talk them through the process and get them into the exam. So there is support both through a chat function, and someone can call them. Question again, do learners get hard copy certificates? At the moment, because of the current situation, we have reverted to e-certificates. There is an option to get a hard copy, but there is an additional cost of £1 on top for that. Another question coming from Julie, is the £50 per learner for maths and English, or per subject? It is per subject. It covers all elements within that subject, but the £50 is per subject. Karen, a question from you there. Can you clarify that the remote invigilation includes a Highfield resource actually carrying out the invigilation? Yes, it is. So it's a member of the Highfield team. We have specific invigilators and employees within Highfield who will carry out that invigilation live for you. Melissa, I've got a question from you here. Hopefully I'm interpreting this right. How late is too late to take the exam? Our core hours are Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So that tends to be the hours that we try to work to. Under exceptional circumstances, if you speak to your account manager, if there is something that we need to do outside of those hours, then we can discuss it. I'm not promising that we can always do it, but we will try to accommodate outside that. But Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 is our usual core hours. If the learner has no IT skills, this is from Veronica, to complete an online exam, what's the process to enable them to take a paper-based exam? The paper-based exam can be taken, that's not an issue. We just need to make sure that under the current situation, social distancing takes place, and the due diligence around that would be down to the centre to ensure that social distancing, etc., is put in place around that paper-based exam. So yes, you can take them, but most people are trying to avoid going into that classroom environment. I think we're getting towards the bottom of the questions that have not been answered. So a question from Helen, it's a good point this, Helen. If learners are doing their test at their own setting, will they be marked down if someone comes into the room they're in? Now, an exam has got to be taken under exam conditions. So we do ask that the room that they're in is private. If there is a chance of someone coming in, if they're in a home environment, please ask family members, etc., to leave them in peace during the exam. Put a note on the door if need be, just to remind people. What would usually happen is if something such as someone walking into the room by mistake does happen, then the invigilator will flag the issue and the exam will then be rechecked at a later date, usually within 48 hours. So they will check to make sure that the person coming into the room hasn't been speaking to them, they've not brought anything in with them that could help with the exam. Just because people are doing these exams at home, it doesn't mean it's any different to an invigilated exam in a classroom environment. It's the same rules that apply. So in a classroom environment, you wouldn't be allowing people to walk in and out during the exam. Question from Debbie. Highfield do provide the invigilators, but Debbie's asking, can you as a centre provide your own invigilators? The only two options are you invigilate face-to-face or Highfield invigilate remotely. There's not an option for the centre to invigilate remotely. It's something that we've agreed with Ofqual. They're happy with our processes, and we need to keep that quality assurance behind this. A question from Caroline. How can we sort out a learner if a learner needs writers, scribes, or a remote invigilation? We can do that. You do need to let us know in advance. You do need to complete a reasonable adjustments form as well, but a scribe, writer, or reader can be involved. We will need to speak to them in advance, just to make sure that they're aware of what their role is going to be in this, and also making sure that the way that they carry out their role doesn't have a negative effect on the exam. For example, leading the learner on with a particular answer or something like that. So again, it's a similar kind of process to what would happen in a classroom situation, but yes, we can accommodate that. Question from Sue. If a learner is unable to take the test on the day it's originally booked, say due to illness, will they have to pay the full price for the exam to rebook? So usually what we say is if you cancel 24 hours prior to the exam, then we can just rebook the session for you at no cost. However, if they just don't turn up for the exam, then we've already got the exam place in position. We've already got the invigilator waiting to carry out the invigilation, etc. So we would need to charge that £30. We wouldn't charge for the exam because the exam's not actually been taken. So one of the exam registrations has not been used if they don't turn up. However, there would be the additional £30 fee to pay for the invigilation platform and the invigilator's time. So he's asking, would a learner be able to take a toilet break between exams? The answer is yes. So they can't leave the room during an exam, but between one exam and the following exam, then they can. That's fine. And I'm now down to the bottom of the questions that have been typed in. So I think at that point, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for attending. If anyone's got any questions that come in at the last minute and come in while we're doing this this final talk out, then we will try and answer them. But we can also send you the answers via email at a later point as well. So I'd just like to remind everyone that there will be a feedback form at the end. So if you could just, once we close down the presentation, it takes 2 or 3 seconds to open up. It'll only take you a minute or so to go through it, but it does help us to shape what we're offering in future. So I'd just like to thank everybody for attending this morning. Hope it's been useful to you. If there are any questions that come up following this, then please let us know. Contact, as I say, in your first port of call would be your account manager. They can then pass it on. We do offer a number of webinars, which we're putting a lot of webinars out there at the moment. So if you go onto Highfield Qualifications website, you'll see along the top of the screen there's a news and events tab. Click that and click on the events. It'll tell you about any CPD events that we're running. There are some first aid ones in there. There are some other webinars about different aspects of the business. So please follow that. Also follow us on YouTube. Any of the webinars that we offer will then be filmed and shown on YouTube as well. So if you follow the YouTube channel, then that'll give you notifications for when the new ones are out. So I'd just like to thank everyone for this morning. Hope you found it useful, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you. Goodbye.